Okay, so today, conversion lab, GTM hacking. So I'll quickly go through this. I'm not sure if I have the right answer at this stage because I haven't reviewed what they've actually done. So I have a call later this week where I'll be reviewing the actual setup to confirm if my theory is correct. And next week I'll update you guys as to what the actual solution was because I haven't yet, because they've got a very complex setup. So I just want to make sure. But I want to cover the issues today of what do you do when you run into issues like this, because it can happen. So let's break it down. So we've got a situation here where we've got firstly, please confirm you can see my screen. Sometimes I end up sharing the wrong stupid screen.
Yeah, can see it.
Okay, all right, awesome, thank you. All right. So we've got a situation where we've got a decision tree. They've built a lambda on the DT itself, which is essentially what that means in English is if I go ahead and just do this, what they've done is they've actually oops, not there, preview mode, and they've actually built the lambda inside LeadSoc itself, right? So if I come here, I can actually come here and type in my stuff and build my entire lambda inside LeadSoc itself. So for the high volume markets like business finance, debt, solar, whatever, sometimes that's all you need. You don't need big long VSL pages and all that kind of stuff. So it's for a specific type of person that we cater to and makes it nice and easy. All right, so leave that aside. That's what they've done. Okay, they've got one DT. So they've got a DT that looks something, well, not quite this. It's a bit more complicated, but they've got a DT. And now what they're saying is because I don't want to go and change, or I don't want to go and duplicate. So they've got 10 clients or 15 clients or whatever they are. Traditionally, I've seen the setup where what people will do is they'll do something like this, right? So they'll have a client C. They'll go to their client. They go to their own DT. They'll have and then they'll have a client A or B or whatever it is, and they'll have their own DT going there. So that way you have a very client-centric decision tree. And the advantage of this approach is that obviously is over time, if a client A's market or offer or whatever deviates from what you started with, then you just go and change one, and it allows for a fair amount of customization. You can even jump on a call with the client and make edits that are quite centric to them. That's the advantage of that. But obviously now you got to manage 10 DTs, or if you've got 20 clients, you're going to manage 20 or 30 or 40. So their thing was, hey, we don't want to do that. We just want to have one DT. So I'm going to remove this from our discussion here. And as a result, everybody goes to the one DT. Now, what they're doing is when you land on the DT, what they're doing is they've got a decision node. And what they're doing in the decision node is they're actually passing them through using condition of client A, B, C, D, whatever it is. And they're actually going to update a whole bunch of fields. They're going to update image fields, text fields, all that sort of stuff. So they're dynamically changing the logo, the client's branding, and all sorts of stuff around it on the first. So as they pass through, I'm just gonna and I've covered this in detail here. As the traffic passes through the decision tree, it updates all these values in real time by reading the UTM params or any other parameters that they may be passing. And then it comes here, and on this page here, the background color has changed, the logo has changed, the footer has changed, the header has changed, the phone number has changed, and so on and so forth. Pretty much, they're personalizing, customizing in real time using essentially LeadSoc dynamically, right? So this page here would not have anything static. It would have basically a custom field. Let me see if I can change the color here so we can see. All right, so they'll have something like, let's say, I don't know, like logo or whatever, or they'll have a specific headline. So let's say, I don't know, let's call it headline. But then they'll update it with the user's headline as the person passes through the decision node, right? So it's a pretty interesting way to only have one DT, and now you can cater for 1,000 clients. So all you got to do is, when you want to update another one, is to come here and just add one more line. So in their case, this is going to be, let's say, I don't know, client A. And maybe they'll pick maybe a tracking field like UTM something. So let's say UTM content maybe is, let's say, I don't know, client A. And then they'll come here and they'll update a whole bunch of fields. I think I've got a headline field sitting here somewhere. Yeah, there you go. There's a headline here. So I would actually go and do client A's headline if if they're looking for that kind of a specificness. So let's say if it's a local client, you can best flooring for San Diego, or best flooring for London, or best flooring for Sydney or Brisbane, or whatever it is, right? You can literally personalize that way if you wanted to. You don't have to, but you can do it. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, right? So that's essentially what they're doing across 10, 15 clients or whatever there are, with the prospect that it can go up to 30, 40, 50 clients as well. So but they're quite adamant that we don't want to go down that approach here. So what that basically means is that obviously with client A, they want client A's pixel, Facebook pixel, GA, TikTok, so on and so forth. Now, traditionally, what you would do is you would come inside LeadsHook itself and go into GTM, like I have done here, and I'll go and add my GTM container and go and activate this and put the details here. But all these values are cached for page speed. So that doesn't work. We discussed it internally whether we should do it, kind of like have like a custom field here. So have like a FB pixel, Facebook pixel ID, or GA pixel ID, or whatever it is. And we felt that by doing that would be affecting page speed for everybody. And so just because someone wants a fairly non-vanilla setup, why should everybody else have to penalize for it? So it's something we'll see if there's another way of doing it without losing page speed, right? Because the point is, if we take away page speed, then immediately your cost per acquisition starts increasing, all things being equal, right? So we kind of knocked that straight away. We said, no, we can't do that. It's not a small change. It's a fairly big change. And when you're caching things, obviously things have to change in real time, because you don't know where the traffic is coming from and for what specific client the traffic is coming for. So that wasn't a solution. So the next thing was I said to them, all right, you need to hack at your GTM container. And so this is what the container looks like. I'm just gonna, which is this one here. You download and you upload, and it loads up and it looks a little bit like this. It's if you're not hacking away at GTM too much, it looks pretty gory. It's like, what the hell's all this shit? Like it looks like a lot of stuff. But it's actually not. It's done in such a way that we've broken up all the tracking into different pieces, and so you can fire different pieces at different times. So the question was, do I build from scratch? So do we not use this feature? So we can turn this off and just go directly under scripts here. I'm sorry, DT scripts, and come in, add my header and my my above body head and all that sort of stuff here. And that would be one way to solve it. That's the old way in which we should do it before we added this into the platform itself. So that's the other option. And what you would do there is you would then go and build your own container from scratch. But the fact that we've got all this infrastructure already built, my suggestion was to piggyback off what we've got and make some small edits to it, rather than going ahead and changing everything from scratch. Right. So the question is, how do you do it? Now, when you launch GTM, but if I go into the actual nitty-gritty of GTM, any questions so far on what is the challenge we're looking at here? We're looking at one DT, multiple clients, and multiple pixels to be fired, but they have to be fired based on the client that we have. Yep, all good. All right, cool, awesome. All right, so how do you do that, right? That's the kind of like $1 million question. So my suggestion was, and so next week or later this week when I have a chat, I'll be able to verify if that's how it's actually going to work. But in theory, this is what it looks like it's going to work. So with a lot of these things, the bigger problem is not the actual execution, is understanding how do you do it? Like, because like we could have said, or they could have just said, listen, you know what, your LeadsHook version doesn't work. I'm just going to go and build my own container. Now that's literally, 50 hours of work. Like, unless you're a GTM expert, it's going to take you hours and hours and hours to build something like that. So my suggestion was, don't go down that route. I'm glad they reached out to me instead of just, going and hacking away at it, which would have been the usual response. And I said, now see if you can make this one work. This is what you would actually do. So my suggestion was to them was just like how they're updating all the fields here, come here and update a new field. And so create a new field for Facebook pixel and so on and so forth. Let's call it that right there. And I'm going to come and update it for client A. So that's going to be client A, right? So something like this, client A. Obviously, they'll update all the other values, the logo, the client-centric details. And one of those would be your Facebook pixel, your GA pixel, and your whatever else there is, right? It makes it nice and simple. And the other reason for doing it this way is because now you can open up client A's details. So let's just make this tracking. I'm going to call this UTM content. And let's say this is going to be client A. Oops, client A. And so now, and so if I have it set up like this, I can call this update client details, and done. Right. So what I can do now is if I'm like, hey, listen, you know what are we tracking for this client? I can just open this up here like so and have all of their stuff sitting in the one place. And so you can make edits if your Facebook pixel changes or whatever. You come to the one place, you change it, you publish it, and that's it. You're back in business. There's not a lot of managing to do after you've set it all up. So that's the first thing to do, right? Is to update the values as the client is coming through, and that way the rest of the DT remains as is. But now, how do you trigger the Facebook side, or the GTM side, I should say? So if we have a look at the classic GTM, it loads this first, which is the consent, and it moves in this order, right, from 1 through to 8 at this level here. Next, it does the initialization. So this consent initialization is just where the consent apps that are coming out work. Especially, you know, when you have those big banners that show up on the site saying, you know, do you accept cookies and all that kind of stuff. So you tie those consent networks to this. Just a side point there. You can tie it to this part right here. Right, then what happens is the container loads. This is all still very much the GA side of things. You can see that's nothing really come through. And then the very first time is going to be this right here, which is in the data layer. LeadsHook sends all this information across when you start a DT itself. In our case, because we've got GTM right here with just GA, it's coming through with those details right there, right? So that's the GA part. Obviously, if it was Facebook, it would say that. So we default everything to false, and then when if there's a value there, then it'll be updated with the pixel ID itself. Otherwise, it passes false over to GTM. So let's have a look at the GA first. Here, I'm just going to go Google, and let's have a look at this one here. Right. So that's the trigger. That's when we fire the Google GA pixel. Right. That's where when we fire that. And it fires it with that property ID, which is basically this number right here, right? So and that's the actual tag. But what actually fires it? Well, what fires it is something that's looking for LH start or LH return, and where it says that the Google Pixel ID is not false. So what it's looking for, just to explain in simple terms here, it's looking at this and it's saying, if it's false, I won't fire it. But if it's anything but false, i.e. a number, I will fire it, right? So that's what that is saying. So what we need to do essentially is to turn off this part, right? So I'll be turning off this part right here, and updating the value here to send it across, right? And so far so good, and I think everything should just work as is. So instead of firing it at the base level, we don't want to use this part, but we still want to use the infrastructure that's already provided, i.e. send the details across. And how are the details coming across? Well, let's have a look here. Let's have a look at the data layer. So in the data layer, we'll be sending it the updated value by doing an LH set field into this and sending that across rather than using the default values, and everything else should just work as is, right? So the point here is that instead of spending 50 hours of work, all you did is use one decision node, update something, maybe a little bit of script to do an LH set field to update the field value, but otherwise you're using the base level that we've the GTM container we provided, no other fancy edits required, and so on and so forth, right? And that is probably the best the way to set up. Now maybe we need to pass URLs, because what I don't know is what they're doing is this. So I don't know whether they've got like 50 URLs here, like, you know, that's for URL client A, client B, client C, client D. If they're doing that, then we may need to pass one more variable, into the data layer, which is the URL that they're using, and then use that in some way to trigger it, right? That adds a little bit more complexity, but it's not overly that much more complex. I think it's still doable without doing much hacking. So today, what I wanted to basically share is that when you've got something that is built with hundreds of hours of literally, a couple hundred hours of testing and robustness to make sure this thing just works, we want to make sure that you don't needlessly go and start hacking away at stuff and then needlessly doing all this extra work. I'd rather you leverage of the capability that we've already perfected with hundreds of hours of testing. Plus, all this goes into our automated testing, all that sort of stuff. So if something breaks, we know when it breaks because we do the automated testing, a few times a day now. And so I'd rather, in most cases, rather than people just running off and just starting to hack away at things, spend a little bit of time and think through the issue. Obviously, if you understand, if you have a deep understanding of GTM, then you know all you're looking at is what is the information that's flowing into from LeadsHook, and what the hell would I need to update or edit so that I don't have to touch much else, right? So I told them, try and avoid hacking GTM, and just try and make some edits using decision nodes or a little bit of custom scripting inside LeadsHook itself, so that whatever comes across into GTM, GTM can't even tell the difference that you've been hacking away at it gets that same information as it has always done. Therefore, it just works. The minute you start hacking away at GTM is where your capability really needs to be, world-class level. Otherwise, you can easily make a mess out of it. So their first attempt at it before they reached out to me is when I logged into their account. What they had done is they had duplicated everything was like doubled. Like they had let's say they had 10 clients, there were 10 GA configuration tags. They had like 10 lead tags, 10 like it was literally turning into a bit of a nightmare. And I said, that's not the approach you wanna take here. You wanna step back and leverage off the dynamic nature in which we are passing it. And I can't see why it won't work. So anyway, long story short, that's the current setup. I have a call later today to really verify what the hell they're doing, but that actually is all you need to do in the case of this. And this was one of the things we were thinking about when we were building this whole setup, is what if somebody wants something non-vanilla? We don't want to say to them, hey, just throw everything out, go get yourself a developer, spend $2 to $3 grand or whatever it is, $5 grand, and 5 weeks to get any of this thing done properly. Before you go live, because what that does, it adds an extra 3, 4, 5 weeks or however long it's going to take to you going live, and 5 weeks is a very, very long time to be launching campaigns. So leverage of what we've got, and I'm kind of glad that they did reach out to me, because this is a solution to do it. Any questions on this before we go into just general Q&A?
Previously, you had the solution where we just duplicate the Facebook pixel if you're running multiple pixels. Would this work in a similar way? You just do the decision node and have them all?
Correct. Yeah. So the difference is in that case is you've got multiple DTs, but say one
single
or two.
Single DT.
Single DT. Okay. We're doing single DT with multiple. Then you can just go and update that. The difference is that in your case, you may have had that strict requirement was not there, that client A can't fire client B's pixel. Yeah. So that, yeah. Oh, maybe that might be even a simpler solution, but let's see. I don't. No, I think what complicates it is the fact that they want them on different URLs. So client A DT is being displayed on.
This is more complex, but is it best to, if you're for one client, as in yourself, you want to fire multiple pixels? Is there a method like this that would work better than the duplication instead of lead?
Yeah, no. Then if that's the case, yes, actually you could do this. The reason why I've suggested it, because it maybe required some hacking, and maybe it was just easy just to duplicate it. So yes, I think that can work in your case as well. So you would use a decision node to update your multiple pixels, and you would send across. Sorry, you want to fire 2 pixels, right? Not 1.
Yeah.
Okay, in your case, you have to duplicate. Yes.
Still duplicate. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because you can't fire one tag twice with two separate values.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, good question actually. Yeah, now I have to think about that. All right. Any other questions on this before we move to general Q&A? We've got John and we've got Jonathan on the call. Yeah. All right, guys. I'll stop talking about this. Feel free to ask any other questions. Let's what else do we have here? Oh yeah, by the way, there's some new updates that have happened inside LeadZook. I'll quickly cover those. The main one being if I just drag and drop here is these two right here. So US zip codes and the LeadZook address part. Yes, it's still in beta, and you can select the full address or you can select the postcode, and that's it. I can add that in, and that's it. So feel free to test that out. The US postcode one, I haven't written the full article for it yet. I still have to probably get that done this week. Is we're tracking about 100 different data fields with a zip code. So income levels, household incomes, racial profile of the area of the zip, so on and so forth. So you'll have that all the information available for you to pass into your CRM, your data analytics platform, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to visualize, if let's say, for example, if you have conversions coming, so if you have conversions that are happening, then you should be able to filter it and view that data against your lead record, saying, "Oh wow, I didn't realize that our conversions are happening in zip codes with large families, for example, or zip codes with low incomes, or zip code with high incomes, or zip code with more military personnel, or whatever." Right? So there's all this extra information it just means that when you're slicing and dicing the information, it gives you a bit more insights as to what the hell's going on behind the scenes. And perhaps that could reveal to you things that you can change either in the copy or you can change or you realize, like, listen, all of our conversions are happening with families or in areas with large families. Then the question to ask is there a way to target that? I don't know if there is or isn't, but that's an interesting question to pose, is that, well, is there some way we can use that extra information? Generally speaking, that kind of targeting is not that precisely available. So if that's the case, or you could do zip targeting if you realize, like, hey, listen, you know what, I can get a data set of all the zip codes with large families, for example, and then you can probably do zip level type targeting if that's available. So there's some options available for all that stuff, and our goal is over the next this month is to add more and more of those data sets. There's a UK data set that's coming soon, hopefully this week, and so on and so forth. So really supporting users by giving you more data to analyze it later. And I know that not a lot of people do this level of data analysis, but I think it'll make a lot of difference to what you guys are doing, especially with learning where the conversions are coming from, and hopefully adds some value. In our case, it was a matter of just adding it one time and gives you all this access. But very soon we have a data product coming out soon, which will make the analysis even faster and easier. But that's hopefully in the next 2 months or so.
Do you have anything coming out for vehicles, like make model type stuff?
For what, sorry, again?
Make and model type stuff for vehicles?
Yes, that is, I think that's coming this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a data set we found, so we added it into. So what we're doing essentially is we're hosting all of this data ourselves. So it takes, for example, this global address one, that one right there is global addresses. It took almost 2 weeks to build the data set, because it's millions and millions of lines to crunch through. So yeah, but anyway, that's all done now and all cached, so super fast. Wow. Makes no mistakes. There's no third-party API calls. This is all internal, which means that we already have the address on file. If you get my drift, so there's less likelihood of an API going down. There's no API going down here. It's 100% online all the time. So that's anyway. So because we realize there are a lot of common uses across the board, addresses being a main one. So why not just host it instead of making everybody go through their shitty, Google addresses setup exercise, which is a bit like pulling a teeth out. Anyway, so if that, yeah, obviously that option is still available, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can just use this. Yeah. All right, I'll stop talking about the feature stuff. Move on to any other open questions. Anything that's popped up this week that I can help you guys with. But otherwise, I'll update you next week on the final setup of what they went live with, and give you a replicated version on the setup. And I might add this one specifically to this page right here, so that people can avail themselves to it if they ever run into this sort of an issue. I just found that not a lot of people like that. It's a very complicated setup. Obviously, you need to cognitively keep that in your head. But I can see where the efficiency gains would be, especially when you go over 10, 15, 20, 30 clients. And if it's all local business, then it's the same question. All right.
I'm
Right.
curious
Any
what that
questions?
means for, Nick, if you want to move on to that.
I'm sorry?
The US Japan stuff.
Yes.
What it means for lead gen, and what the risk and what's the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So household budgets have been affected a lot. So what I'm noticing is the way you position your offer has to change now. It has to be around how this is going to help you save money, or how this is going to help the family keep money for longer. So those sort of appeals are working. The market is getting more price sensitive. I was just reading earlier this week in Australia, and I'm assuming this is in some ways global as well. I haven't checked the global stats though. We've had the highest number of cafes and restaurants close. And so obviously it's a sign of disposable income getting crushed, which means that the same old hooks probably won't work anymore, and you to somehow show where money saving is going to be predominant. So it's those sort of hooks. So anyway, just for your benefit, in Personal General West, I've got a whole section on positioning for this sort of stuff. So we'll cover that either this week, if not next week. But yeah, there is you can't it can't be the solution at the moment is not just run more ads or test more whatever. It's really going back to the drawing board and re-questioning what's actually going on. Now that's on the lead gen side. So what's going to happen is, if you have a look, let's see if I can bring it up here. I will bring it up actually. CNBC. Just checking it out about 10 minutes so before I jumped on our call. Let's have a look at US. Where the big move is. There's a little section. Here you go. Big movers. There you go. This one right here. So if you have a look, that was yesterday. Yes, NVIDIA, Intel, yeah, fell 30% yesterday. I think 20 or 30%, one of the two, and another seven today. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're all on YouTube, Tommy. Yeah, these are all public. I just put them on YouTube. So, but you can see here that there are a whole bunch of them that are still doing well. Now, if you look at the Dow here, you'll see the type of businesses that are not falling as much, which is your consumer staple, classic, stuff around, food, pharmaceutical, Walmart, McDonald's, Procter & Gamble, all that stuff. So that's defensive. That's all your tech type stuff that's literally getting smashed. So that's on the investment side, but that's highly indicative of where the money is flowing to. Alternatively, if you look at the currency, right? You look at the FX market. Where is that? You'll see that the yen is strengthening against the US dollar, right? It's a real flight to safety. Yeah. The other one to look at is Swiss versus US. It'll be something very similar. You'll see a flight to safety, and that's why BTC got smashed. For any crypto bros on the call. Where is it?
Which of the lead gen markets will start to be
Sorry?
negatively impact? Will in the lead gen spaces be like the major ones be
Yeah.
negatively?
So anything that's the problem is that most lead gen that's high volume is consumer discretionary, not stable, right? So things like where you're required to make a big decision, like a roof, solar it definitely falls into that. Solar's in the middle in the sense that it does save you money, but you do take on debt. So that's the kind of like the downside where the people are comfortable with taking on more debt, but also qualification for debt is also dramatically reduced. Like if I were to go ahead and get a loan today, for example, versus 6 months ago, all things being equal, today will be much harder than 6 months ago, which was harder than COVID, where you could just literally they're throwing money at you.
Yeah.
So that's expecting or preparing lower demand from your clients is something to expect. Well, whether that eventuates, I don't know. We can't take 2-3 days of market falls and somehow start drawing too many conclusions. So the goal here is not to panic, but more like, okay, well, should this continue in this trajectory, it could affect the volumes that we sell. I don't think it goes to zero, but the volumes could be impacted. Or the feedback from the client will be, listen, they're just not converting. And it may have nothing to do with the lead quality. It may just have to do with the fact that it's just, it's a freaky time. If you're like, listen, hey, I'd rather just wait than to needlessly commit myself into any large capex. So, which is a natural decision to make, right? I think everyone would do that in this environment. Like, I don't know whether I'm going to have a job next month. So why would I go and, commit to a new roof or a new, whatever. So I think sales cycles might increase. If this persists, right? We've had this sort of periods in the past where things go down for 3 or 4 days, and then the Fed says, "Oh, we're going to reduce interest rates," and yay, happy days again, and everything starts going back up again. So I would not read too much into it. But if this trajectory continues the way that it has, then there is potentially a cause for concern to reduce volumes. But you'll also see that same thing impact at the ad side, right? Because obviously less people are buying ads as well. So you're going to see some falls in bids, or hopefully you see some falls in bids. I haven't a look at it, but I'll look at the Gupta data. Maybe next week I'll just update you on that, or maybe I'll do a Facebook post about it, where there's a data set. Yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up here actually. Where is it? Corona. Crap, which one was it?
Scam.
Let's just. Not that. Not that. Not that. That's the one. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. Let me get rid of all of these first. Okay. Let's have a look at. Let's have a look at the long-term chart here. And you can see like the bids have definitely been going up. So I did a post about this in the Facebook group where we had kind of like the $2 average bids to $6. So anyone who's saying that the cost haven't gone up, I mean that's 2 to 6. So it's a pretty significant increase, all things being equal. So I guess there's a couple of points on this. I did do a post about it. The Facebook reach for the post in the group has really been shrunk. every time I post, it only gets like 10 views or something. So I'm not quite sure whether the function of something Facebook just reducing reach of groups or something else. But oh yeah, Jonathan, yeah, we did a whole bunch of them, and growth, tracking, a whole bunch of them. I just started Persuasion last week actually. Anyway, long story short, yeah. So we've got this this massive increase, and so obviously, if you haven't increased your prices, so Josh, I guess the question to ask would be, if you've gone from 2 to 6, then 6, that's a 3x increase. Then have your lead prices gone up 3x, or some variation thereof? And the answer would most probably be no. So obviously these are global average CPMs, not so your market may not have done, may not have gone up 3 times, but it may have gone up 5 times. Who knows? Or maybe gone up only one time or 2 times. So the point is that the CPMs have been increasing. So what you would expect to happen is that these CPMs would go down should the current environment persist. But usually people don't relate that to the economics, and it's hard to relate to economics, right? Because it's a little bit distant to what we do on a day-to-day basis. Like most of our effort is spent on what hooks work and what offer works and all that kind of stuff. So we never really talk about the economy per se, except with some friends or family at dinner or something like that. But we need to consider that at some point those economic factors which start impacting. So certainly in Australia, there's been a massive impact on the amount of disposable income that is available to buy your normal, goods and services. So yeah. So I would suspect that. Now, what kind of lead gen does really well? Things that are talking about savings, and so Josh, in your case, if you're doing debt products, it's still a great time to be in the market, because what ends up happening is the number of people who want to evaluate their current financial situation increases substantially, because they want to save what they've got. So, for example, if you're in real estate, then the number of people who are considering perhaps maybe we had a good run on our investment property, maybe we should dump it. So all those things do come into play. And so the inquiry does increase. So there's a lead volume. Whether that translates to actual sales in the market is to be seen, because obviously the other side of that is that the buyer has less money to spend, or should I say, even the desire to spend, their qualification is somewhat affected, as in qualifying for the loan, because banks here in Australia, they're assessing everybody at whatever the prime rate is plus 3%. So it's around about 10%. So you got to show that you can fund everything at 10%. Yeah. So anyway, interesting time. So I think the way to deal with it is to start planning out what can go wrong, that like kind of Murphy's Law thing, right? So start doing some stress analysis. If you're only in one vertical, then look into going into another vertical rather than doubling down on the existing vertical, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because much like because diversification impacts it reduces how badly you're affected, right? That's why you buy a portfolio of 100 stocks or 50 stocks or whatever it is, not like one. So, and the reason why you diversify is because things move in different directions, right? So let's say if in my case, or in any case, I should say, if someone had, let's just go to markets, and let's go to the movers, right? So let's have a look here, right? So let's say you had a bunch of stocks in this type of sectors, and then a bunch of stocks in this type of sectors, right? You may not, while you may be down, while the market's gone down 10% or 15%, you've gone down 5%. Like the things that went up absorbed some of the downturn, if that makes sense. So, and then obviously you'd mix that up with the other stuff that you have, such as treasuries, so your bonds, and stuff like that. And that's the reason for having a portfolio, so that you don't get the whiplash So similarly, in business, you know, in order to avoid the whiplash, you want to have, in order to avoid the whiplash, you want to be in multiple markets. In fact, someone reached out to me after our last persuasion call. Their major client had just given them a notice, 30-day notice, that they're going to leave them, right? Which is it's sad, but you know, I had the conversation, I don't know, a couple of months ago. I mean, not about a couple of years ago, because they consulted me about 2-3 years ago. And I said to them, I said, one is a very dangerous number. Actually, you should be looking to getting multiple clients. And if you can't find them in your country, then go to another country and find them. And you should really go to another vertical and another traffic source. So in their situation, they've got a business with one client and only Facebook traffic. So there's very little diversification and extremely high risk. So yeah, and that's essentially the problem. Whenever you become a single sector person, okay. So think about this, right? I remember getting quite a few calls from people during COVID who were specialists in the travel industry. They had built their entire business on travel, and there was no travel, so obviously that's it. It's done. And I remember the guy just said, he goes, yeah, he goes, literally, we were doing a couple $100K a month to zero. And because never in my wildest dream had I thought that travel would ever stop. And yeah, the pandemic stopped travel for at least some period. But it was long enough to kill the business. So yeah, because he had to fire all the employees, and you know, it's never a nice position. But I mean, it's not his fault, but that's just the way it rolled. So now, in your case, so let's say, Josh, if you've you know, let's say you've got a solar business, and it would be, well, how do I diversify out of it? Either that business does diversification, or you go and you just, you know, buy into other businesses that are doing other verticals. So that way you're diversified, and not necessarily the business is diversified. So there's two ways of doing it. Generally speaking, you know, if your business can diversify, great, but it's usually going to be slower, because obviously you got to build this whole new capability. Yeah, or you can diversify yourself personally if that opportunity arises. Like, let's say there's another agency out there that looking for someone to buy in or partner or whatever, and they're not related to your primary market or the market that your current business is in. Yeah, go for it. Then you diversify two ways. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you some ideas. But the goal here is not to panic. And in any market, there is going to be still some demand. It's not demand doesn't go to zero, but it just means it's harder to you just have to work a little bit harder. That's all. So for example, in my area, like when I go for a coffee or whatever, there's about 15-20 cafes in that one kind of like a small square block. But the person that I go to, you know, she's got a line out the door while everybody else is empty. And so the question is, why is she, you know, has got a queue out the door while everybody else is empty? And it's the classic thing. She's got product differentiation. She has a large variety of single you know, origin coffees and all that sort of stuff. So it makes, and she charges, you know, 50 cents more. So not only is she the most expensive, or the more expensive one, but also she creates the ambiance at that level. Her food selection is a little bit different, and as a result, it's a cafe, but it's a cafe with a different offer. Yeah. And so similarly, you know, you're going to find that nothing's going to collapse. That demand doesn't go to zero. It just gets a little bit harder to fight it. So just be ready for that, because budgets shrink, and there may be some churn in your client. Now, that's nothing to do with you, but if your clients are badly organized, so let's say, for example, they're carrying a lot of fat because times have been good from the COVID days, and so they've got, you know, yeah, it just happens. Every business ends up with financial slack. And if they're carrying a lot of fat, then you're bound to run into a situation where your client will stop buying, not because your leads don't convert, but because they get having slightly longer sales cycles. And because when you have a slightly longer sales cycles, obviously the working capital you need to run the business now is obviously going to increase. And they don't have, if they don't have there, and so naturally cash flow gets drained. Exactly, yeah. So just be wary of that as well, which is why having a one major client or two major clients is a largely dangerous proposition. So even if you do nothing wrong and your leads are still great, but the sales cycle increases. So instead of closing a typical solar lead in 30 days, let's say they close them in 90 days now. Yeah, that's an extra 60 days of cash flow you got to find from somewhere, which means the pressure is on them now to say to you, hey, man, we need cheaper leads, but that's not the answer. Answer is the sales cycles have gone up because of economic situation, uncertainty, so on and so forth. And so if they're not lean, then they have to fund an extra 60 days of wages, salaries, all the rest of it. It could mean that business now has got issues with survival or solvency issues, or at least things get tight. So then that comes onto you saying, hey, your leads are shit. Don't worry, you'll get blamed no matter what happens. Yeah. Any other questions on this?
That makes a lot of sense. Where do you see it going with the?
Yeah, I'm in two minds. I think this one might be here for a slightly prolonged period. I guess it all depends on how fast the Reserve Banks works and how much more money printing starts again. But I'm just not sure how many bullets are left in the gun anymore, because the US economy is like I was reading some numbers early I think late last week. I think like if you remove US government, federal government spending, US GDP is negative. So it's already in recession. If it wasn't for the extra expenditure of the federales, you already are shrinking. So I think we probably have been in a recession for some time, if you were to exclude government spending, and that includes every country here as well, Australia as well. And there's a lot of I don't want to say money printing, but at least certainly they've been issuing lots of bonds. They've been borrowing a lot. Let's put it that way, right? So obviously then they get that expenditure then goes into the economy. So the GDP numbers look good because part of the GDP is government spending. But I think a better way of looking at it is to look at the GDP without government spending, because we just want to see what's the private sector doing, right? Because you can really hide the numbers, and the government has an ability to spend forever, generally speaking. But at some point, the debt levels get too high, which in the case of the US is definitely there. A good chunk of the federal budget in the US is interest payments on these bonds that they've issued. So yeah, so
China,
it's
which is Australia's 60% of our GDP is from China.
Yeah, so exactly. So we're yeah, and the question always is how much more capacity do you have to borrow? As in, how much does the government how much can the government keep borrowing at the reasonably low rates? And the rates aren't zero anymore anyway, which means it's expensive to borrow now. So let's say the interest rates go higher from here for whatever reason, because inflation is not coming down. It actually has a massive impact because the government borrowing starts going higher and higher and higher, which doesn't look like much. It's like, oh well, they're borrowing. What do we care? Well, at the end of the day, you're paying for it because it's the taxes that have to fund it, feed it, right? So then there's pressure on how much they tax us. So I mean, it's all interconnected and circular. So you want to make sure that that's not the answer, right? And so yeah, but they're motivated by saying, you know what, our economy hasn't gone down, and GDP hasn't gone down, therefore we're not in a recession, and everybody wants to say that because they don't want to get voted again. But I think realistically, perhaps globally, we've been somewhat subdued if you take out government spending. And once again, this is not to judge whether the government should spend or not. I mean, depending on which side of the aisle you sit on, you'll have a view. It's just a fact that there's only so much anyone can borrow, and there's only and generally speaking, government expenditure is somewhat politically motivated and sloppily done. There's a lot of wastage, is the point I'm making. So it's not the most efficient way of spending, but the money still gets spent, so it shows up in the GDP somewhere.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. But the crypto bros should take a bit of a break now. Yeah, no, I've been hearing this crap since it started. Is that thanks, Tommy. No, like they keep telling me it's a safe haven. I'm like, no, safe haven is when it goes up in value when shit hits the fan. It doesn't go down like the way that it does. So it's not a safe haven in that sense. It acts more like a really highly volatile tech stock than gold. Actually, let's have a look at precious metals. I actually, let's see, gold. Actually, no, I'll just do GLD. That's a good proxy. All right. All right, so it's gone down, but let's have a look at the graph. Okay, so let's have a look at the month. Yeah, so really, not much. There you go. So that in a lot of respects is a safe haven. Japanese bonds are a safe haven, and I'm assuming Swiss franc, which is CHF. Let's have a look at that. FX. You know what? Let's look at FX. All right, FX. Let's have a look. All right. USD CHF. All right, let's have a look. Yeah. No, that's yeah. So Swiss francs have strengthened, same as the Japanese yen. And so these are the classic traditional safe havens. Francs, yen, Japanese bonds. They've been safe haven for the last few cycles. So as you can see here, that's exactly what it's doing. When people freak out, they go to francs, yen, Japanese bonds. US bonds traditionally has been a safe haven, but I'm not sure if that's quite the safe haven that it used to be. Just, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it hasn't moved that much. So yeah, I guess you could get away with that. But yeah, things do sell out of other currencies, companies, and go towards US, Japanese, and franc. So yeah. Yeah, thanks, Tommy. Yeah, I still only get a handful of people on these calls. I do get private messages every so often saying, "Whoa, dude, man, you're sharing some stuff that I can't even get in paid in paid groups." So which is good. Come after countries building tall buildings. Yeah. So that's that's the whole skyscraper index thing. That yeah, when you build too much, you do. Yeah, and I guess it's also, yeah, I guess the reason for that is, or at least a plausible reason I should say, is the fact that it's a moment of grandeur, right? Of sloppy spending is why you build big buildings. Because surely on a per square footage basis, it doesn't make sense to build something that's 60 stories, 70 stories tall beyond a certain stage. So it's more bragging, showing off, all that stuff, and that always bites you. But I guess the one thing I do look at when it comes to this is let's look at LVMH. Okay. What are they doing? That's the one I want to see. All right, let's have a look. All right, LVMH.
2.6.
Hey, no. All right.
Much movement.
Yeah, it's well, from
Luxury
155 to
markets get affected
138.
in the same way.
I'm sorry?
Luxury markets don't get affected in the same way.
Correct. They don't. They don't. They get affected after a while. They get affected after because their clientele is the ones who can weather the storm for longer.
Yeah, upper middle income.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the one to keep in touch in the sense that if they start getting hit, then really the top end is also not spending. Yeah. So interesting. LVMH. Maybe I'll start reviewing this on a weekly basis. That they bring out the the Corona webinar analysis again. just to give an overview of what's going on in the market.
It'd be interesting to see
But
some companies start to take a dip and then opportunities to acquire come about.
yeah, correct. That is definitely going to happen. That is definitely going to happen. I mean, the multiples have squeezed quite a lot. In fact, if I just go to SaaS multiples as a proxy, images. Let's have a look. There you go. So multiples have still anything more recent? 22. I saw one recently on Twitter, which was no. Okay, I'll see if I can post it up later. But yeah, multiples have dropped. There you go. M&A multiples have dropped somewhat. They're like, for example, that's the height of COVID right there, right? 8x, and then they went down to about 4x. So had you sold here, you'd have killed it. It was an abnormal time because of the money printing that was going on. Everything flooded into the markets.
Impacting the multiples on SaaS yet?
I'm sorry?
Is AI impacting the SaaS multiples yet?
Yeah, not quite. Well, if you're AI, then you get a high multiple because
more from the point of view that it's easier to create SaaS now with AI.
Yeah, that is true to some extent. And so to me, that is going to be pricing pressure to sell lower priced SaaSes, as in the same thing at a lower price. So yeah, I've been expecting that for a while now, actually, which is why in our own case, we're adding in more value for the same price, because what we're seeing is that our ability to deliver the similar services that we did previously are cheaper. So yeah, I saw a really interesting thing from Jeff Bezos. I don't know when he said it, but it was a clip or something that popped my way. He said people often talk about like what can we change, and he goes, the thing to look at is what is not going to change, and what is not going to change is customers are still going to demand lower prices. Customers are still going to demand or continue to demand higher services, and so on and so forth. So if that doesn't change, if your customers aren't, then that's where you want to focus on. Like what are the things they're going to drive costs down? So in the case of what we do, as in what LeadZook does, we drive costs down, not necessarily by charging you less, because whether we charge you $99 a month, or I charge you $299 a month, or I charge you $49 a month, that's not a massive cost in any business as such. Like obviously if you're starting out and you got no revenue, then you're like, oh my God, I can't be paying $99 a month. But in the grand scale of things, it's not a big dollar value. It's not like $50,000, $20,000 a month is being chewed up by this sort of thing. So the focus for us always has been is how do we get you from idea to live as fast as possible. So it's the gain that you get from coordinating, from moving faster and from coordinating yourself faster. So one of the things I'm working on right now, as in this with my own designer internally, is basically like a campaign planner. And the part of the campaign planner is actually your ability to invite third parties into the planner. So you have a graphic designer company that could be working with you, or a graphic designer personally, and so on and so forth. So it's almost like a project management system, but specifically designed for running a campaign, not something generic like a ClickUp or a Monday or whatever, which are generic project management platforms. This is specifically designed for just companies that people want to launch campaigns. And the reason for that is because despite having all these tools available out there, so tools like Upwork and ClickUp and Monday.com and whatever, Trello and all the other project management apps, the amount of time that I see wasted in coordination to go live is actually a significant cost. And because one of the issues I've found is it's not the lack of the project management system, it's I don't even know what to put inside it. So if I can give you a template that if you're going to go live, you're going to need traffic, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. So each time you say, I want to set up a new project, it pops up all of those things, is actually probably going to help out. It's like, oh, I didn't even know I needed to make sure that, I do server-side, client-side tracking. But there's a line item. So the value is not in that you can manage a project or that the app allows you to put any to-do list on it or to-do item on it. Is the fact that you don't even know what to-do item to put on it, as in not you personally, but generally speaking, I'm seeing that lack of coordination is why a lot of people aren't going live, and which was a little bit concerning, that despite running into people with user experience, they still can't manage, they can't manage things. So they may be technically very competent, like I know how to write copy, I know how to do ads, but they can't step up one level above and manage the different tasks that need to be get done by different groups of people to get to the finish line. And that's where the real value add is actually. So yeah. So like I recently, like someone reached out to me and said, hey, can you do a project for us? So I gave him a full list. I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. These are the other 5 things that you're going to have to do. And they turned around to me, they said, man, I really appreciate you giving us this list. I know some of those things I would not even thought of. And I said, but before I start, I need access to this, this, and this, and this, and this from you. And so just by having that, you don't get that last minute rush, like, hey, how come the pixel's not working? Or how come blah, blah, blah is not doing it? And you're like, who's doing it then? And it all falls on your shoulders. So this way, it's all listed out nicely. You pick who's going to do what, and you know well beforehand what has to be completed. So hopefully makes life a little bit easier. Which then obviously means that we have people who are able to use LeadsHook much better, faster, and quicker. Even if that app itself directly does not affect LeadsHook itself, as in it's got nothing to do with LeadsHook. I mean, you can manage you can manage campaign projects in any other app out there. Or we'll just add it in, of which, the DT side of things, the landing page side of things are all one of the line items to tick off.
It's insane. That'll be epic when it comes through.
Yeah, because it's over time realizing it's just the basics, man. It's people just don't do the basics. And everyone's getting seduced by stuff that doesn't matter. Like our whole persuasion SOS stuff, right? Like, I mean, the bulk of the focus is on the research side, because that's the part that hardly everybody wants to skip. Well, let me just go and copy some guy's ads from some ad library, which is okay. I mean, that's I mean, you do want to study your competitors. I'm not saying don't, but just outright copying and pasting is really hardly a business model. So. Right, guys. All right. Any other? Okay, hang on. We have a question here. Would idle viable for? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So Tommy, yes, just to answer your question, the ideal client for LeadsHook is, so the reason for the SOS courses is because these are the broad skills that I'm seeing that are just not there. And so how people are filling that gap is they go to a Facebook group or whatever, they'll post for, hey, can I get someone to do this? Or they maybe have come from a traditional business where they know how to run large teams. If that's the case, then they've gone and built a team to do that for them, right? And so it's so the ideal person hopefully comes in with a variety of skills. One of those is ability to drive traffic in some way. And yeah, and so ability to drive traffic. Now, in terms of our consulting type stuff, it's no, it's I've worked with affiliate marketers and all that sort of stuff. But generally, what I do is I just say, hey, listen, you know what aren't you doing well? So I do a review with the person, and I go like, where do you want us to fit into to the project? Like, what's the scope here? Without understanding the scope, it's hard to determine what we're going to do. Otherwise, and I've in the past I've said I'm only going to do this, and you know what the funny thing is? Nobody does the other part though. So then they go, oh, Nick, the project failed or whatever, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Like I never said, I was quite clear that we don't drive traffic. But did you get a media buyer? No. It's like, well, you got to get a media buyer. So I'm actually quite explicit now. It's like, okay, who's driving the traffic? Are you sure? Like otherwise, don't waste your time on this whole thing if you can't find someone who's going to drive your traffic. Or who's going to do your tracking? Do you want us to do it, or you got someone internally? No, I got someone internally. Okay, great. Then they better be able to do A, B, C, D. Can you please confirm that they can do that? Because don't come to me when you're going to go live saying, hey, this tracking has to be done too. So that's kind of like what I do. And I mean, in the past, that's what's happened is like we do our bit, and then the client or whoever it is, they've got their own experts and team members and all that sort of stuff, and they don't deliver because they think it's much easier than what it actually is. So yeah. Yeah, no, that's not. So I wouldn't say anything is above anybody's pay grade. But before we start any project, I want to get a good understanding about what the gaps are, because you might think like, oh well, if Nick just gives me a DT, I'll run with it. Great, okay, well, but do you run with it? Do you have someone drive traffic, or are you the person who can do media buys? If you can, then that's great, because then it's just this works. But too many times I remember this one guy, he took 15 or 20 grand from someone to deliver leads in like, I don't know, Solo, one of those markets. And he had never done lead gen. And he said, what do you think I should do? I said, I think you should refund the money. And he's like, I can't refund the money because I've already spent it. I'm like, on what? You're not even driving traffic yet. So he basically took the money to, I don't know, fund his lifestyle. But that money is like obviously some portion of it is profit, but the rest of it is media. He spent the ads. Yeah, exactly. It's not cool. Yeah. He spent the ads money on whatever he spent it on. And I said, I don't think I can help you. Yeah. Firstly, you got no integrity for having done that. But secondly, how can I possibly help you when you've already spent the money? Like, so we make a campaign, and how are you going to run ads if you've never run ads? So yeah, I'm not quite sure what transpired with him and the client or whatever. I'm assuming it's probably. And so then what happens is that those experiences then get shared, right? And then now every lead gen is a scam artist, which obviously they're not. But all you need is one of those a-holes to spoil it for everybody. So, or they get really jittery. They're like, they don't want to pull the trigger. And so people start thinking, oh, it's a sales problem or whatever. It's not a sales problem, it's a trust issue. Because they've been burnt. Yeah. Unfortunately, Tommy, that's just seems to be the norm. I think the barrier entry into this space is very low. Like you can jump on Facebook in a Facebook group, read 10 posts, and all of a sudden go out there and say, I do lead gen. So unlike a doctor where you gotta, get certified, there is no certification. So I suppose at some level, these people do get driven out because they don't deliver. But
they struggle with the bigger buyers. They can't prove themselves to a buyer that's actually
correct.
decent.
Yeah. But along the way, there's a lot of little people that get burnt along the way of these people. And so you get this client who's like really jittery, they're like really like or jaded, I should say, it's probably a better word. Where they're extremely skeptical. And so it's harder to sell, obviously, to them. Because they're like, no, you prove to me before I pay you. I saw a post on Digital Marketers Australia group. This guy said, I'm not paying a single cent to a single person. You do this, and then I'll pay. And essentially what they were asking for was like way on the other side. And there was no company in the world that would have done all that work for no expectation of pay. Yeah, you did some I learned from Goa in a CPA company. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know Ryan Eagle, but yeah, I used to get scrubbed all the time. That's one of the reasons why I stopped CPA. Is I can see in my stats that let's say I got like 1,000 leads, but I get paid for 800, and like 200 were somehow fake or something. I'm like, I'm running Google Ads, man. What do you mean fake? so yeah. And it's a really, really easy way to steal from someone. Just scrubbing it. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I left. I found that market to be a little bit too slimy for my liking. PPV, yeah. Traffic events, yes, I remember that. I remember Go doing some big numbers on that one. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys, we'll call it a night, and I look forward to seeing you on Friday, both of you. And let's this Friday's gonna be cool. There's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, it's maybe underpriced this whole course. All right, thanks guys. Yeah, I look forward to chatting with you on Friday. Bye for now.